previous tape. I'm always looking for ideas. Good idea, anytime I take a coffee break, take a look at some of the books. Get some ideas. You'll never know where you're going to pick up an idea for something that really will look neat. You'll be surprised just how many good ideas are in the bottom of a coffee cup. They're right at the bottom of a coffee cup. Here's one of the details I was glad we were able to incorporate, this the door that opens up to allow the air to pass through the... Like I said, I'm glad the phone is ringing. 7:30 in the morning and the phone is ringing already. President Mustang. Trouble with all these Mustangs is there's just so many things you want to do. There's so many, and I mean Dan Banjock's the perfect example of somebody who put everything in one model. And from what I understand, now this is a rumor, Paul Winter is going to have the world's greatest voodoo. He said he's going to incorporate every checkerboard, every purple, every blue. Well, Paul, we hope you're going to do it, and we hope we're going to, you know, be able to get some pictures soon, kiddo. Now, of course, I'm trying to keep it conservative and keep it a little bit like Strega because I love that Strega presentation, but you never know where you're going to find another idea. Red and white invasion stripes, that's unusual. Surprised Banjock didn't put red and white invasion stripes also. Danny, the plane is beautiful. There goes the compressor. It's time to start laying some paint on the plane. Okay, we are in the middle of some really nice weather, and I've been kind of put a little bit of speed on here. Taped off the trim on the flaps. And then the first color I'm going to lay out is the Insignia Blue, which will be this stripe, which will border the red and be a reverse image on the flap. So I'm going to back mask it all with a la Walt Prey with tinfoil. And I hope I can get this done and get some blue on this today. We've got the first blue stripe on the fuselages and on the tail and the rudder and stuff, but we need to get, I'm trying to do one color at a time, but obviously the tail isn't finished yet. Still need to do the masking, back masking on that, so we'll get the wing and the flaps done today, and if the weather holds out, and so far it looks pretty good. All masking that I do, I have a pretty set routine, nothing special. The first thing I do is, and I've already done this on the previous tape, lay out the whole trim in 1/8 inch tape, and then go around each edge with some clear, and I think you can see, just brushed a little edge of 50-50 clear and 50-50 thinner to seal that tape edge. Now I need to back mask. Back mask meaning that I'm going to mask off with tinfoil everything except the area that I'm going to spray. I've used a lot of other mediums. You can use newspaper. Newspaper leaves black gook on everything and really doesn't seal very well. This technique Walt Prey shared with me years and years ago. Been real successful with it. And like I said, President Nixon even does it this way. Let me get the phone. Thing is never take the tape right off the roll and put it on a model. You notice I'm putting it on a very nice clean towel that just came out of the laundry. It leaves a little bit of its stickiness on there. In the past I've rubbed it on a t-shirt or whatever, except my t-shirt is a little dirty from working in a machine shop, so don't want to get any of the grease on it. And I don't want to waste a day like today going up to, you know, change my clothes. I want to get busy on this. Actually, this year more than any that we've ever had, whoops, I just picked up the wrong line. Now see, because it's not a problem, you can use it over again. Because we're a little further behind, normally this time of year we're ready to fly and we're testing motors and making pipes and venturis and stuff, but this year, because of the complexity of the project and because of the change in our business life where we've basically had to make some radical changes to things, we're behind the 8 ball. So what I've been trying to do is any day like this that I get reasonable weather, and it's good information for anybody. I try to get the most amount of things done. When we get a day that the humidity's not high and the temperature's not terrible, I just go like a wild man trying to get as much of this back masking and painting and everything done. Now obviously one of the things I like to do, lay out, and I'm just going to do one flap. Everything else is redundant here. There's There's no real creative, tricky way that you can avoid doing it. You could lay the masking, you could lay the tin foil out on this. This would be another way of doing it. In this, because of the shape of the trim, it's not appropriate. That would show you the trim. I've done that on a Spitfire, by the way. Then you could cut that piece out and run. Yeah, you know what? Masking tape is cheap. And I like to think, in the case of masking tape, by using possibly another $2 roll of masking tape, I can save a lot of hours. Number two, I never use the tape over and over and over again. I know people that try to do that. They try to peel it up and use it over again. Not a good investment. Not in my case, anyway, because my time has some intrinsic value that I'd like to have. Now, an angle like that, I can just tear a piece, and this is where you can make a little bit of a gain. And most people figure it out real quickly. Is just use up your little scraps. As long as that tape has been pressed down on a towel once, it should really be no problem at all. And in here, it's just easier to do it this way. By the way, this green 3M tape, super. Just super. Okay, now we'll basically reverse that. I can fold this over like doing a turkey basting, just to get rid of the extra material. Do the back, and in a matter of maybe 5 minutes, the most, I've got a part ready to go outside and spray. I'll repeat the same thing on the wing and on the other flap, and try to take advantage of this really nice day. And this part, this trim layer will be insignia blue. Before you go any further, this part, now it's done on both sides, of course. You really don't want to grab it and squeeze it where the tin foil is. What I try to do is grab it, roll up the tin foil, and make kind of a handle that isn't even holding the wood. And then I can hold it by that. And when I go outside to spray that later, and by the way, the day is turning out beautiful. Oh man, it's Anaheim out there. It's really nice. See, it all goes pretty quickly. Now, just before I paint, I got to mix the blue paint. I'll put a drop of fisheye killer in it just in case I've gotten my fingerprints on there. I like to run my finger down the tape that already has a coat of clear. Tip weight box is already in. See, there's a little spot right there. Yeah, I didn't catch that. Basically because I'm trying to rush to take advantage of this Anaheim weather here. Anyway, boy, it's amazing. You spend the whole winter in the house and, well, I'm itching to spend some time outdoors. I'm doing a little test on his blue. This is the first time we've sprayed this insignia blue since the time, well, the emblems on the Spitfire, the roundels of this color. When you go over silver, it seems like it's a little bit more brilliant than if you go over any other color. In this case, it's just a little bit dry. There we go. It looks like a coat and a half will give plenty of coverage on that. You may want to just dust it off, dust the edges off again. It's nice in this kind of weather. We're looking at 20 minutes dry time here. The idea is just to put on the minimum amount of paint that you need to cover. Just, it's always tempting to go back 6 or 8 times and build up a real thick layer. That I call that a coat and a half. The edges, and that's going to be plenty. Worth its weight in gold. Always look at the part that you've just sprayed in the sun for low spots or spots you might have missed. Usually you'll miss, like I see a little spot up here, an edge. If you do it in a shaded room, a crowded room, in fact, I'm going to try to move this into the sun any way I can here. Let the sun be your guide to look down, look for any spot looks like it may need this color just go. Oh, here's a good example right here. Now in the sun, in the shade, you would never see that, but right here is a little mistake. See, there's a little spot where you need a little more paint. Well, obviously this is no big deal, but that's what you want to do. You want to do it in the sun, and I got to go back and look in the sun here to get this. When you miss a spot, you think I did this on purpose, huh? I didn't. And you don't want to do it when the paint is really totally wet because you get a lot of reflection. Let it dry just a little bit, and that little edge there. And the whole idea is not to use any more colored paint on a plane than you absolutely need to get good coverage. And Brodak paint covers just the best of anything. Again, you don't want to wait until you go downstairs under fluorescent light, take off the tin foil, then see, oh, there's a light spot. You like to look at it right out in the sunlight. Another thing, you don't want to build up a lot of dope along the edges if necessary, because what happens there, then when you pull up the tape, you have this ridge that's 1/8 of an inch high too. Anyway, you can get some idea of the coverage. Blue is one of the better, this Insignia blue is one of the better colors. Some of the colors you really do need 2 coats. This one you really need about a coat and I call it a coat and a half. Well, I'll tell you, the flying season must be coming quickly, quicker than I thought. I have a brand new Jet 60 coming from George Aldrich to test. I'm ready to go flying today. All right. Oh, see now, here's the sun is showing me right there. Now the trick here is to always let the tape sit 24 hours before you peel it back so you get a nice clean edge. If you were to pull it back sooner, well, maybe it will, maybe it won't, I don't know. I really don't like to let paint like this sit out in the sun. I think it's negative because it tends to bubble. Dark colors just get too hot. So what I'm going to do is put this away in the garage to dry overnight and see if I can get any spraying done on the fuselage parts today too. Just such a nice day, and my baby fish are out here keeping me company while I'm painting. These are all the fish that are left from a long cold winter. Now what I'm going to do, I'm trying to do the white today, because it's so nice out there. It's just unbelievable. So what I did, I peeled back the blue tape. Now I can backmask everything from here up is going to be white. I can just backmask using that line. To do that, I take just a credit card and just knock that edge down before I go and lay that out, because again we have the clear on that edge. You can see the little piece coming off right now. Just 45-degree angle, just kind of shave it. You never want to sand it. If you sand it, some of that paint is going to bleed through and could tentatively be a problem. Just a little shaving on each edge, and that's ready to backmask, and we'll be ready to paint some white on this. Try to seal that edge up as well as I can and get it accurate. But if in doubt, leave just a hair, and I mean a hair, of blue showing, and then the clear will kind of blend that in. So you don't see a little stripe, you don't want to see a little stripe of silver in between. And I'll go through the fuselage parts, the tail parts, get these all ready to spray. Now white usually tends to hide all mistakes, so the parts will always look better when you're done painting them white than when they were silver. Now obviously we're going to repeat the same steps on all of these parts. bottom shells, this is one of the things we have to deal with all the time. You never want to paint white over red. So what I'm going to do, obviously, is backmask this and just shoot a coat of silver over the top of this. Because if I try to paint white over red, it's going to need 50 coats, and it's always going to bleed through, and always a risk that it'll be pink. So when you need to blocker that out, you could use the white Brodak primer. That'd be fine. But an even better way is just go over it with one coat of silver and then the white, and it should be no problem at all. That little coat of silver on there, that'll make a world of difference. We got to put the white, it should cover in one coat. White, I really always like, if you have all the choices, always like to go over silver. Now tomorrow is Elliot Scott's birthday, and what I did, I got a painting, an oil painting from George Venturini. This is a real George Venturini painting, and by the way, now that his artwork has taken off, he's become kind of a big shot. Anyway, I bought a frame for it, and I think that's just a cool picture. In fact, I wish, see, that's a George Venturini painting above the fish tank, the Conquistador del Giglio. But George's artwork is now commanding top dollar, and I got to buy some of these paintings before they get out of sight, before they become as expensive as tune pipes. Anyway, that's going to be Elliot's birthday present. We're going to give it to him tomorrow night. So, and I'm going to go like hell to try to finish this painting. It is such a nice day. It's unbelievable. Anaheim. See, even a couple little spots like this. As I'm putting this together, I see some little spots I want to address in a silver. What I'll do is just shoot a little bit of silver on that, let it dry 5 or 10 minutes, and then shoot the white. It's right up to the, actually I'm never happy with it. I'm always looking for some little thumbnail mark or something I can fix. Now it really turned out to be a productive day, and we've taken the best advantage possible. I just hope we're going to have some more decent days. There's still a lot of painting to do, but it was nice to see how nice the Brodak white dried up. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The blue now, the trick here is not to get impatient. Let this sit at least a whole day, and then we'll peel back the tape extremely slowly. But our project plane is, well, we're trying to play catch up here on the time, but today we made some progress. We got a couple of nice pictures from Nils Norling today. Nice 38 special. Looks like it's 38 special anyway. Nils, you got to tell me what it is. Bislob. Nice aluminum gear. By the way, those aluminum gear that George are making now, really nice. Gold anodized. No, this is a full fuselage model. Nils, we need captions. Anyway, we're going to holler at Nils here for not sending a proper caption here. Nice model, really cool, but anybody sends pictures in, please send captions. Oh, I see you look at this dog. Look at this. Looks like the Taco Bell dog. Anyway, Nils, you're now a movie star. You'll be in stunt news. Hey, we love you. And we're going to get back to finishing that plane if it kills us. We want that finished. The miracle of miracles here in Rutherford, New Jersey. We have another paintable day. So my goal is, now I want to try to set this up in a sequence that makes sense to me. In other words, I don't want to, see, I have the tail, I have to do all the taping on it yet. Well, I don't want to spend the whole day taping the tail and then paint one little stripe. What I want to do is the biggest possible areas first. And it looks like the biggest thing I can do to get this program rolling is get the fuselage, the bottom painted red. See, because we have this incredibly nice day out there. Having the fuselage bottoms painted red will be a big step in the right direction. Possibly I can get the red done on these parts. I'm trying to lay this out in my mind. But the first thing I want to do always is get off all of the tin foil and the tape that holds the tin foil on. I don't want to leave that on any longer than necessary. Whenever I pull off the tin foil, a couple of things that'll help. Give you some ideas maybe that you can use to your own advantage. I want to peel the tape back and is almost a 90-degree. First off, you want the tape in any dope finish to sit on for 24 hours. That gives you the edge that it cracks rather than tears. And by this cracking now, well, it looks like we're getting a pretty good edge anyway. Now this little tape I've never found a problem leaving on, no, even for a week. But this big green tape, I like to get that off, even though only you can see how much of it is touching. I want to get that off. Never like leave it on over the weekend if possible. You know, the sooner you can get it off after 24 hours, the better. Now I just want to peel this back, and I'm trying to always peel back at 90 degrees. I don't want to go like I'm tearing open a packed Christmas present or something. Okay, now before I go any further, I always get out some kind of a credit card. Just dress that edge off, because that's now going to be the edge. I'll back mask this now. Run clear on this, back mask this. Now I can see in this case I had a little flaw here I fixed. I'll hit this with silver, let it dry, and then hit it with red. And that'll see, I'm always doing a small part first, because I want to test. I want to see if the paint is going to flow nice, and I'm hoping it will. It always does, but I don't want to get into the situation, go get the gun, and the paint's a different color, I forgot to clean the gun, something crazy. So doing a little part like this will be a good test, and then one by one I'll do all of the bigger parts exactly the same way. But always a little bit of silver back on here, and 10-15 minutes later I can just put the red right on there. And then basically all I'll have to do is come back with the brush and do the thin stripes. And I can do that even on a bad day, but it's good to use a good paintable day to get these relatively big areas. And let this dry a few minutes. I don't like to seal these edges until right before I actually am going to paint, because they tend to loosen up in time. So just before I do the actual painting, now I can let this dry, back mask it, and do the silver. Again, a lot of times planning out how I want to do this, it's always tempting to try to do the easiest thing first. In this case, I like to do all the things that are going to need dry time. Anytime we get a paintable day like this, but just wasting a paintable day is really burns me up. But by the end of the day, we should have a lot of stuff out there drying. Let's see, that's going to need a little touch up on a silver too before I do the red. It's the same thing over and over and over again. Now on big pieces like the flap, this is important, to me anyway, is I want to be real careful I'm not squeezing the tin foil and putting little dents into the part. I'm going to pull the tape back nice and slow. I tried to make a plan here, and what I'm going to try to do is get as much of the red painted today, since that's the other major color, get as much of the red painted today as I possibly can. And I'm always tempted, and this is the point I'm trying to make, I'm always tempted right at this point to kind of start rushing through things because I want to get outside and get painting. Well, and then you wind up putting little dents in the wood and dents in things, and it's unbelievable how you get Jersey, you get cabin fever. Anyway, pulling this back, it looks like I'll have, well, given the fact that day looks pretty good, I'll get all of the red back masked and be able to paint the red today. But boy, that'll be a giant leap forward for mankind. Now that we got some of the masking done, we're ready to mix the paint. Oh, Karen's Furniture Refinishing Corporation. Look at this furniture. Whoa.
This is a piece from the 30s.
Wow. So this is furniture for Craig. Our lovable son is moving into a new apartment. Put some of that up on the top and let's see how that takes it off. Let me see.
I don't want to take it off, honey.
No, you can't smear it around. You got to take it off. We'll put a new finish on. Don't fool around with this. Here's a roll of paper towel.
Will you open it for me? My hands are wet.
I can't open it. I'm taping the plane. Miss Ashley will have furniture polish on it. See how that takes that right off? Isn't that nice? Yeah, that's going to work fine.
The rest of it, if we could get a statement that matches, the rest of it is fine.
Yeah, well, the shelf needs the nail gun. It needs a big day with the nail.
Only the top needs refinishing. I hope we can find a stain that matches.
Look what we just found. One of the very rare orange frogs in our soon-to-be planted garden. Oh, it's a beautiful day. Let me finish the back masking because I want to paint today. Oh, my God, the pond is cleared up. Oh, I wish I had my fish back. My fish. We're almost done backmasking. God, this backmasking turns out to be a time-consuming thing. Got all the parts ready. Got the red paint in the gun. And we're ready. At last. Look at this. Before he's gonna paint his cardinal, look at what a good guy. He's gonna remove this ugly bush from our backyard. Look at this multitasking here. And we have to paint a plane today.
Yeah.
A crazy day turning out to be, but boy, the weather is nice. Again, once all the back masking's done, this part is really a piece of cake. I often wonder what it's like to live in a part of the world where you can paint virtually every day. Like Anaheim. Anyway, they're refinishing furniture, pulling out stumps, getting ready to put a roof on the house. My business is going bankrupt. I'm going bankrupt, but we have a nice plane this year. Whoops. I don't know if you can help but like that color. I love that. Miss Ashley Red. So nice. Major thing, for 9 years I've been painting at this house, and every time I walk out, this tree puts scratches in the plane. You can't really paint in this part of the yard. Finally, after 9 years, we've learned our lesson and we're getting rid of it. We are really trying to take advantage of the day. And the more I use this new red, oh God, I love this. We're definitely gonna do Mike's plane as soon as he gets done removing all these dead shrubs here. The only thing to keep in mind, it's a little bit of a lighter color when you go over white than over the silver base. But and I worked with George Anderson over at Randolph, actually all day yesterday. The candy apple colors that are coming, you're gonna really be excited about them when you see them. They're coming quicker than you can imagine. Once there was a bush, now there's nothing. Thanks to the wonderful Mike Kajeski. Once there was furniture, now there's none. Look at his hands. Show us your hands, Mike.
That's it.
Miss Ashley. He has Miss Ashley hands.
Soon to be Miss Cardinal's hands.
Oh, God. The rains came. We really did get the wing painted. God, we got parts everywhere out here. Fuselage. All the parts are drying up here on hooks and whatever. I am really getting to be a big fan of Miss Ashley Red. It really worked out well. The wing especially. And it's fun to paint your friends with Miss Ashley Red too. Now it's less than an hour later and it's pouring rain. It's hard to believe. As they predict rain tomorrow, it's going to rain today. But there's good news. All right, I just need to tape off the tail, and I guess I can do some of that kind of catch up football. I brought everything in. You can't leave anything in a garage, even though I usually never brings things in. But it's starting to shape up. That's going to have to stay overnight till I pull up the tape. The wing looks, this color is really nice, believe me. It's going to be a nice twin to Strega. Now, because the tail, the trim is small, out. Pretty redundant. I guess I'll just do this exactly the same as the wing.
Sue O'Neill for the Vacationing Carol.
Well, the rain stopped, the sun is out, we're going to finish our little paint job. Anyway, I wanted to finish up taping off the elevators, possibly get the blue stripe on today. Anyway, plotting out the way to get these stripes on. Just a little time consuming. Sometimes you can do like I'm doing right now and just use the same piece and just fold it back over, but I don't make myself crazy. Tinfoil is, especially if you buy the off-brand, which obviously I do, relatively cheap. Now again, we'll be ready. Actually, we are going to be ready soon. It looks like we're going to sneak one in here. I don't know. I'm not going to brag, but anyway, this will catch us up on this part so that tomorrow when we pull off the tape, we only have to back mask the red. We'll still be one day behind, but predicting more rain, I don't know. But looks like we have snuck one by here. And I think you can see what the coverage on these colors is like. Well, when you paint with this material, you can remember the old days of trying to paint things where you needed 100 coats to cover. It's all a bad memory, like a bad dream. I think You can't even tell if the sun's going to come out here. But anyway, anytime we hit a little rain like this, I don't take a chance. I just put about 10% retarder in the mix right away. So I don't have to think about is this going to cloud up or not. And now that we have this area here to paint, see, we didn't have this area with that big shrub there. We had to get that shrub out. We're getting ready. I'm kind of putting a rush on the plane because we need to put a roof on the house. A roof and a chimney. The chimney, last time we had a storm, half of the chimney was in the driveway. Buy an old house, and believe me, your life is not your own. Anyway, that looks like it's covering real nice. All right. Well, I'll tell you. Oh, you got to fix this thing too. Good thing we have a nail gun. Look at this Mickey Mouse thing. See, when you have a son that he demands refinished antiques for his new apartment. Oh my God. Yeah, that really does look nice. Oh, I'm telling you.
Parents who can do it all.
Yeah. Hey, that really does look good. I don't care what Warren Walker says about you having no talent. That is definitely cool. I'm thinking the only talent in the whole world that Wendy might ever have, the only thing he could ever do is build model planes. And you'd be right. But luckily I have a wife that rescues me from all these projects. We've been spending a lot of time setting up this boy's apartment, and he demands antiques. This is a nail gun I bought to put up that tin ceiling. Boy, does this come in handy. I've used about 5 packs of nails already. Oh, solid as balsa wood. Buy a nail gun for fun and forever. I wish we could figure a way of building. It'd be nice if we could figure a way of building planes with nail guns instead of glue. Was that the day ended with the furniture refinished, the shrub removed, and Miss Ashley's paint well on the way to being done. Now, in today's mail, I got a nice little gift, and this is something I really look forward to trying. For making aeropoxy fillets, he mentioned, this is from Larry Cunningham, by the way. Look how he signs this paper. I love this, Pampa Civilian. Anyway, all the years I've been involved with Pampa, I've never gotten any official paper from Pampa saying Wendy Ertnowski, whatever I am, civilian or military junta or something. Anyway, a nice knife, and it's obviously the thing it's appropriate for is mixing epoxy and making fillets. Now I can just picture, as soon as we have a fillet to work on, Larry, we'll definitely give this a shot. Larry mentioned a couple other things like, and this is something I agree with, that the DAP, the green material for filling the holes, had no strength. Well, we don't need to put any strength in the holes. So far, anyway. I guess we're going to find out. Anyway, we do have George Anderson over at Randolph working on another, we're not going to obviously use it in this project, but another special primer for us that's a variation of the Brodak primer that's going to be made to go over composite stuff, and he's going to be giving that to us within, in fact, we've invited him to come down to shop within the next week to check out our little operation here. And Larry, thanks for the knife, by the way. But Larry still wants to know if he could make one of these out of e-glass. Yeah, you sure could, there's no doubt about it. And I don't know what the strength would be, but usually the ratio that they use is 3-to-1. E-glass is 1/3 the strength of carbon, but I don't know that that's really the case. So I don't know if I've answered that question, but Aeropoxy Light, this will be a great little tool. And by the way, this is the little package it comes in. They make all different shapes. Let's see if we can plug the place, of course. This is art supply store stuff. You don't need the thing. You just go to an art supply store. It's a palette knife. George probably knows where to buy these. Anyway, Larry, thanks a whole lot. Well, now, again, thanks to Ken Clapson. Some of the little pieces that were missing out of our library, we never really had a real master copy of The Last Flight of Tsunami, and we do now, so this will allow us to share the copies. They'll be a little bit better quality. The 1990 year we never had, we have it now, and this, by the way, is a good year. This is one of the better ones. A lot of good little side things going on in this. I never had 90. I had 89, but 89 I had a terrible copy of that somebody jury-rigged a copy protect and made a mess out of it. But now I'll get to see it in real life, the 89 and the 88, which I certainly didn't have. We have, except for The Life of Gary Levitz, I think we have all of the Skyfire tapes now, and we're always glad to share copies with anybody that's interested. So just let me know if you're interested. We'll be glad to share this with you. What's always fun is the day after a day like this where we get a lot of painting done. It's always a little bit of a mystery to see when you pull a tape off how this is all going to look. And obviously I want to pull it off real slowly. Remember, this green tape is only made to catch 1/8 of an inch. See how it just catches the edge here? You don't want to have that tape on, and actually this protects it a little bit too. Try to pull it back nice and slow, nice and straight. But what you never want to do is just rip it right off. Anyway, we'll pull all the tape off. I don't know what we're going to get done here. We only have about an hour, so I'm assuming I can get all the tape pulled off in an hour and maybe get one other little part painted. I don't know what we're going to get painted. Anyway, I'm just looking over these latest Reno tapes that Ken Clapson sent. Wow. Love these tapes, Ken, and again, thank you very much. Anyway, we're going to get ready now. I'm going to start backmasking this and try to get the red painted today. Because I have a short session, I don't have a real lot of time. So I always try to pick something that's appropriate for the time window that I have. So when you get to this part of the job, oh man, we can really start to see what this paint job is going to look like in its final colors. Now, before I mask it off, I want to get just a little look at how the trim's going to look relative to some of the other parts. I still have to pull the tinfoil off of these parts, but I think that kind of fits what I had in my mind, and it kind of looks like, even though we don't have a swept-back tail and elevator, it has the sweep and the leading edge similar to the sweeper, which is what I like. And the equal-length elevators, I think they're going to work fine, but hey, I guess we're going to find out. I really like to look at these paint jobs as they evolve, so if I decide I want to change something, it's still not too late. Just watching these latest videos, and they have footage of Tsunami that I've never seen because I've never had these videos, these first two. Great video. Ken, I really can't thank you enough. And while I'm doing this boring stuff like masking off the plane, these are just priceless. This is the single best tip I can give you, and I think I've mentioned many times that, now say this part, now that we're going to paint this red, this part here has to get backmasked. We're not going to leave the tape on this particular part. But if you can, I don't know if we can get this on the tape. Here's what happens. If you take the tape and you get it over the edge so that when you pull it up there's a little sliver of silver, it really does look terrible. If you do it so there's just a little sliver of the other color showing, the clear seems to melt it as it goes by. So if you have a choice, and obviously you know, we don't always have all the choices. But one thing we learned this week, this polyurethane, that water-based polyurethane that Karen's been using to refinish furniture, we did some bathroom furniture too with it. What great stuff. Anyway, if you can see, there's just a little sliver of black showing, just the thickness of a human hair. And that just seems to give a better edge in the final product. And we'll be ready for putting up the foil now. Things that I try to show people when they're at the shop here is if they hold the tape in this hand and use the other finger to press down. Now see how I have this gripped? Because I really need to do miles and miles of this with every paint job. What I'm doing is this. I'm guiding the tape. As I slide my finger, I'm guiding the tape back and forth. So it's a two-handed thing, and it's relatively simple to pick up and learn, but you've got to, you know, obviously you've got to pick up a little technique here. I want to match up the corners, but just the slightest, absolute slightest sliver of blue still showing. Now see up here where the corners come together, I have a little way of just trimming that off. Might be time for a new razor. Also, if you've never done a particular trim job, you don't know what it's going to look like. You kind of like to see it as it evolves. As an example, when we do these, the critical thing here is that this curve is not the same as this curve. They kind of diminish until this one becomes 90 degrees. Now, if we were to make all the curves the same, it has a totally different look, and maybe that's the look you want. But by taking it out and looking at it as it's evolving, you get a little bit better look at, gee, I'm going to like that. Yeah, I don't like that. This looks better. That looks not. It's always better to see it as it's evolving rather than wait until the very end. In this case, I would hate to be doing all the red and everything and be finished and say, oh, geez, I wanted that stripe thicker or thinner or something else. But basically, this is a very similar paint job to Strega, so we have some idea what this is going to look like when it's done. Am I going to run a whole piece of tape? Now see, I'm going to use this tape as a filler tape. So I want to have this pressed down to something, either my t-shirt, shirt. In this case, I'm using a stack of towels, old towels, because it takes the stickiness off the tape, the extra. I need a little piece here too. But anytime you're putting down a full layer of tape, just rub it on a towel like that. And that'll be a good insurance against picking up the paint, no matter how your finish is evolving. I always like to check the edges before I go and paint. And I just hope, you know, from watching this, geez, you just get some idea, because I can imagine if you've never seen a backmasking job, how difficult it would be to figure out. For instance, just putting that coat of clear along the edge, if you've never seen that, geez, that can just make it very frustrating to get those nice clean edges. Now, what's strange to me is there's such a very small difference. In other words, when you're going to do a really intricate finish, to put on the 2 or 3 extra colors that really separate it from the crowd, you know, everybody would just like to do, you know, red, white, and blue, or yellow and black or something, but to put that extra color or 2 on there and do the little detailing that results in a really nice finish, all at a time that you would normally save by using Brodak dope, you can afford to invest that into some real intricate paint work. This is one of the steps that usually will result in, when the plane is all done, really nice crisp edges. Actually, we're ready to paint the red here. The cool thing on this video, Paul Winter's giving driving lessons in England now. This is Paul Winter giving driving lessons. See, it's not hard to drive in England. No problem at all. After taking a few driving lessons from Paul Winter, we're just about ready to spray the red. Finally got this ready to go. Anyway, and it would totally depend on the trim, the paintwork, how you lay this out, but certainly by watching this you can get some idea of how I've done it. Hope you can get more than one idea. Boy, those tapes are great, I'm telling you. Just watching Paul Winter give out those driving lessons, just spectacular. See, I'm painting dry like this. The gun tends to clog up at the tip. There we go. More like it. Now, so far in this plane, I'm going to call the devil. I'll show you how to make yourself crazy. We don't have one run, and we don't have one spot in the whole plane where the paint has pulled up. Now that means as soon as I go back down the cellar, something crazy is going to happen. That's called calling the devil. And I had never seen any of that earlier footage of Tsunami. That earlier footage, with Steve Hinton was flying it, that's great stuff. Well, if you can watch those videos and not come up with some inspiration for a paint job or for a new plane, I don't know. Anyway, that red, just spectacular. Miss Ashley Red. I don't know if you remember the old days when you had to put 20 coats on to get coverage. Thanks to John Brodak, those days are gone. Let's hope forever, too. I see, I'm spraying real good. It's good we show us. I'm spraying this real dry. It's 50-50. So every once in a while, I need to put my finger on a gun, and that just clears it. That's an old spray trick. Or you can thin the paint, and in this case, I'm trying to get this on. It's relatively dry anyway. It's about 50-50, I would say. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of humidity in the air. But I'll always check after about 20 minutes, and if there is, I can just dust on a real light coat with a little bit of retarder. It's always a possibility. There is nothing more frustrating in the world that I know of than trying to paint something and you just can't get the paint to cover. Now see, it's getting real thin and dry here. There we go. Bingo. Okay, so that's another good little thing. Anytime you can pick up one of these little deals. And of course the idea is not to put any more paint on than you have to. Ooh, that's a nice color red. Okay, we got all the parts up there drying. Tomorrow we'll come back and leave them out in the garage 24 hours, pull the tape off, and get back to working on this. We're in here. Check out the furniture refinishing job she did. Really came out nice. And this is where it's nice where you start to get to look at what the paint job is going to look like in its final form. Anyway, I'll get the rest of this tin foil off. We're going to have to let the tail dry outside overnight. And basically the only thing I'm going to get done the rest of the day is pull off the tin foil. So that's going to start to shape up. Now this is key, as long as I've been moving that tape every couple of coats of paint. Right now, when the clear goes over that, you'll never even feel it. There'll be a seamless joint there. Anyway, so far so good on that nose section. But one of the things I really like to have is that cockpit, where you can really start to see how the paint job is shaping up now. Now it starts to really get fun. The fun is going to begin tomorrow with another stripe of the masking, but we really did get a lot done today. And it really is fun watching this stuff evolve, little by little by little. It fulfills the mind's eye that you had when you started the project. Well, the next step is going to be, of course, to pull that off the tail at the wing. Now at least we can take a look at what this trim is going to look like. And the fuselages. The fuselages are really looking good. Okay, next color we're going to lay out here. I'm going to lay the bottom stripe that goes up against the red. I'll lay that out in black. The thin stripes can be brushed, and the wider ones on the wing and the tail, obviously they'll need to be sprayed. And then we can look at how this color chart's going to. The idea here is by doing a small part, I can get a look at, I want to see how the colors look as they run up against each other. I call it a color chart. It's not really a color chart, but for instance, if I were to make this pink and I did this little piece and I didn't like it, I said, ooh, right now would be a good time to change it, just get rid of it. But always good to do the same as anything else. Do a little piece, make sure I'm going to like this, since this is the first time we've gone through this paint job. Make sure I'm happy with the way the colors look on some of the smaller parts, like the tail sections. And then if I'm happy with it, I can go on to the bigger parts that require the spraying. Now this is one of the things that when you do a take-apart plane, of course this is my first real take-apart plane, one of the areas that you really save a lot of time in is just being able to pick this up and put that stripe in instead of having a tail and a rudder and all kinds of things in a way. Well, this is an area that you truly do save a little time, and you lose, of course, by having to make all these little break points and bolts and everything. But at some point in time, there's a gain. And right now, today, this will be one of the gains, is by all of this trim and taking off the tin foil and everything. Very easy to do, very easy when it's a take-apart aeroplane. Okay, all the parts are ready that have just a brush stripe. So what I try to do is let the clear dry a little while, half an hour or so. Mix up some black 50-50 and get ready to brush that on. And one thing nice about the black, I mix it up 50-50, is it usually will cover in one or at worst two coats, but I always like to use that long striping brush once I get a brush flowing. Usually it goes pretty well. And I can almost, well, predictably get about half of this stripe in one shot. I think you're always better with two thin coats than one thick coat, especially on black. You don't want to put it on all in one coat. You get just doesn't dry out. It lumps up, so to speak. What a word. But anyway, thin coats just seem to be a lot better. Now, a lot of people think you have to spray stripes like this. Well, you don't. Yep, we got a little spot in the back here. Now, even if you have just a relatively simple paint job, outlining it, putting a little border on it, takes very little extra time, maybe even less than one day, into the total time it takes to do the plane, and I think it really sets it off. You just consider what one extra little stripe sometimes just makes the difference between making it look really, I don't know, outstanding and just mediocre to where you just run the trim ends and it ends. I think these little extra stripes, which is one of the things I did years ago, and a lot of people seem to have copied it. And I don't know if somebody else gets the credit or not. It's not important. It really does add a lot to a paint job. And again, a paint job like this with the outlining around the cockpit, the thin striping, all of this outlining. It's the outlining, I think, that made this a real nice paint job. At least I liked it. This guy here, he had a lot of outlining around all the trim, all the lettering. See how that white stripe around everything just seems to set it off, even though this wasn't one of my favorite paint jobs. But all those little stripes, and again, I think a lot of people have picked up on that. This one was exceptional, had a lot of striping. Anyway, just a thought. And the black is the easiest color of all. Usually it'll cover in 1 or 2 coats. Now, one thing that's real nice when you do thin striping like this, one of the things that's nice, if you do it in black and the edges are straight and you get a bad spot, you can touch it up with an ink pen, either with a French curve or a ruler or whatever. So there are a few advantages to using black. See how Ted is used effectively to tape in between the colors, and in the end you pull up the tape, and obviously what he does here is paint the whole plane white to begin with. Paul's pretty much done a, well, very similar thing, very effective. Just some good thoughts on laying out your next paint job. Now the next thing we have to do is lay out the trim that's going to be sprayed in black. I'd like to do all the black today, and I want to get that tail. That's been drying overnight, so that should be ready to go to the next step. We've kind of caught up here. Now what I decided to do, make a little bit of a change on this, and I've been thinking about this, is to leave these 2 stripes a different color so that it would make the wing and the tail stand out a little bit more. And I've been looking, Strega has an orange stripe there. And of course the next step is going to be to backmask around this so that that stripe actually stays on there when we're done painting the black. You see, Strega has one of those stripes, but I thought just to make it a little bit different, I'd put 2 of them on this Miss Ashley project. So then I'm having all the parts done here except the tail. Looks like the tail dried up. Real nice. I love this red. Anyway, one little tip. Oh, I didn't even show this yet. One little tip that might be worthwhile is whenever you go and try to bend, well, any tape around this type of corner, this inside edge at some radius gets a little wrinkly. So it's easier just to take, what I do is take a circle template, take a piece of masking tape, cut that on a piece of glass, and then just lay it on there. And when I go around that with the, as I said, when President Nixon backmasks your plane for you for free, it'd be a big help in trying to get some nice edges on there. Is always pick a radius, and then another nice side benefit of this is all the radiuses will be relatively close to being the same size. I'm basically just trying to get as much of this done today, and if I'm real lucky I can get all the black on today. But again, I'm working around the fact that a big storm is headed this way, and we're going to have a day where I obviously will not be outside. So if I can get all the black painted today, even if I have to put a little bit of a push on, it's going to be worth it in the long run. A lot of times I have to compromise. Yeah, I'd like to sit here and scratch edges and do little touch-ups or whatever, but I really need to get this outside today. When I listen to the weather report, we're going back from Anaheim to New Jersey. Things I need to do right now. The same exact little radius up here, and by using that template to make that radius, I should have in essence a mirror image right here, all of the corners and on the elevators, so it should give me a little bit better chance than doing it by eye. Boy, some of these tape edges have really been nice. I've really had good luck. Anytime you're doing a dark color next to a light color, you really want to get that tape edge perfect. I want to get them all perfect, in fact. One of the really good tips you can use, assuming you have multiple spray guns, is always keep, and this is what I do, I keep one gun for PVA, that's for doing mold work, and I have it marked with PVA. I always have a gun that's never had anything but clear in it. I always have a gun for silver. Silver tends to bleed into other colors. I don't like to keep cleaning the guns, and I find out with the amount of work that I do, what happens is, and we paint a lot of stuff in this shop, believe me, what happens, the cost of cleaning the guns very soon becomes the cost of a new gun. I always try to keep one gun for white and for white primer. One gun for all my dark colors like the blue. Now what I'm going to do is replace the blue, the insignia blue. I'll take that out of the gun and put in black. But one of the things I would never do is take the white gun and put red in it. If you put white in the red, red in the white, wow, you're in for a surprise. Anyway, one gun for dark colors, one gun for the primer. And if you can afford it, and obviously there's an investment here of a couple of $100, but, you know, instead of buying those pepperoni pizzas and whatever, you can afford to go for these. I'm a dealer for these guns now, and I've got most of the people in our local area using them, and they really, really work well. This is one of the things that I'm glad now that I have this. In other words, somebody comes into the shop now, they need to just put some primer on, just put some silver, just put some clear. We don't even have to take the paint, and I never, never take the paint out of the guns. The paint stays there constantly. I'm the slave of the weather here. It's the time of year when every day is an adventure. Every day I have to plan out, and probably they're predicting real heavy rain later tonight, so this may be our last good day for a while. Don't have to work around things like the weather. Hey, even better, but I'm going to put a little bit of a push on. I got most of my parts up here ready to spray. The paint's already in the gun, and we're ready. Hey, here's another tip. You know, I've been trying to paint in real cold weather, real warm weather, but anytime I'm expecting rain like this, the humidity I know is going to increase as the day goes on. Before I even go out to paint, I'm going to put about 10% retarder in the paint. I don't want to take any chances this paint is going to fog up. And I may not beat the rain. We're on a race with the rain right now. It looks like I really think we're going to make it today. I don't know, I count this as kind of a little personal challenge to try to get these things done on a schedule. Yeah, and some people have told me, like, the biggest thing that they've managed to pick up off of a video is how, well, not that I'm like the world's expert or anything, but they get a lot more efficient use out of the time that they have. And that's a problem, I guess, for everybody, unless you're somebody special, or somebody dies and leaves you the farm or something. As long as you need to work, it's really a problem. You've got to squeeze this in on days and afternoons and mornings and in between raindrops, in between snow, but we're still able to do it. But I often wonder, and I'm curious. I mean, it's a thing I think about a lot. If I lived in a part of the country where you could fly all year long, I wonder if I'd ever get anything built. I don't know. I really don't know. Anyway, we're about ready to go. This is all cleaned up. Paint's in a gun. Let's paint. Well, looks like the weather's holding here. Anyway, black is always the color. And by the way, another trick, if you're looking to keep a plane light, you can put a lot of black trim on it. That saves a lot of pigmented dope, of course. And one of the things I always try to do is make sure I don't miss a spot on the edge. A lot of times I've done this, gone back in the house and the edges, I'm missing a spot, I got to remask the whole thing. Or do some remasking anyway. Yeah, it's a good trick if you're looking to make a plane as light as possible with no other consideration. Black will save a little weight. Glenn Metter always used to paint his Eagle black, and his plane was always a little bit lighter than the exact same plane Lou Dutka would have painted white. And they'd pretty much do the same finish on it. You can see how little pigmented paint it takes to get a decent coverage here. Yeah, if there's any way you can possibly get your wife to buy you a few guns for Christmas, boy, that's always a good way to save time. Actually, in the end, it saves money. And you never have that unsightly thing when you go to paint white, it's a little bit pink or blue or something like that. Now see, I have a spot I wanted to touch up over there. Anyway, we're coming down the home stretch. We got to do, I think, one more color, some striping. And we'll be ready to start laying out the lettering, the ink lines, the Miss Ashley lettering. John Poppy has been helping me. Elliot's been helping me. We're trying to get together some real nice graphics. See, this is always what I forget. It's right on the edge. And I get downstairs and I say, ah, you idiot. And there's no way you can do that without backmasking the whole thing again. So here I am at 55 years old. I finally learned my lesson. Now this is one of the times it's always real nice if you can get somebody to come over and help you. Obviously, we don't have that person available. Because when they hold it, you can see all these little areas that you tend to miss. Then with black, the one thing you have is you really put a very little weight on the plane. The total weight that you put on is very, very little. Now what I do again with the wing, before I put it away in a garage, I want to look at all the areas and edges. Because if I have to go back and remask it, oh man. And it seems like that's the most common thing I do is just try, what, didn't I see that? And you always want to do it in sunlight if possible. Sunlight tends to show mistakes that, I see one right there. I don't believe this. See, even while I'm doing this, I'm forgetting. It's on the bottom, probably nobody will see it, but it's irrelevant, I see it. All right, everything gets hung up now and we're ready to let this dry for the whole day. And we've beat the rain. We found something good to use Karen's table for. Anyway, got everything drying up here now, obviously. 24 hours before I pull off the tape. And we got one more color. I'm just trying to lay it out in my mind. Couple little stripes. We'll be ready to start getting a look, well, at least have a look at what this is going to look like when it's all put together. The paint is dry and I got a little bit of time left in the shop here. I thought maybe I could finish off these. Now what I've been trying to do is figure out exactly what I want to do. I want to obviously drill them out so they're more like stacks. They don't mold up real well when you try to mold them that way. I've had to figure it out very early, and it's that the best way to do it is lay it up as one piece and just Dremel that middle piece out. And if we get a couple of these done, we can do some different, we have the black paint in the gun, we can get some idea of how this is going to look in various colors. We try to mix some gold in with the black, make a rust color. I don't know yet. But we got plenty of these to experiment with, and we have the molds to make more. This cutter here seems to work well, but I would suggest you, you know, just be real gingerly in the beginning. In my case, if I bust a few of these up, it doesn't matter. I'll go mold some more, but let's see if we can get a couple more of these drilled out. I've been trying different ways of doing this. I don't think a drill press, see, I'm trying to hold it over one of the holes. I don't think a drill press is going to do this, but a good thing is, and again, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this, is to clear the chips. Of course, it's just doing it by eye, like a lot of things. And it gives it a little more realistic look than it would if you didn't do that. And obviously the next step is to trim all around the edge. And we'll try to get these, well, I don't know if we're going to get them painted. Painting, this weather is so hit and miss. The trick is to clear the chip, clear the tool, go in and back it out a little bit, go in, back it out. To make two pairs of these up, and one of the things that's handy is while I'm doing this operation is having this lip to hold it. If I had you don't want to trim this extra carbon off, or you're going to find out it's really difficult to hold. This piece really makes it easy to hold. And I need to actually I need to make up two pair of these for two fuselages. And as I've said before, if I bust a couple of them up, I don't discount the fact you could catch the tool and just break it. These are relatively delicate. It's hard. There's always some little molding flaws, little bubbles and things like here. Here's one right here. Well, we can fill those with the green putty. Whatever we do, I know if we have to, we can just mold up some more. And if we were making these out of aluminum tubing or some other thing, oh, I don't know that you even could do it that way. Another little trick that works. Oh, it's not the wrong one. A little spot like this where I've gone through, it's not a big deal at all. I'll put a little bubble of thick CA in there. Obviously, these need to be sanded well, usually with about 220 paper, maybe even rougher, because this epoxy you will not get a real good grip on the paint. And the next step, of course, after that sanding we'll get a coat of Brodak primer on them, and then figure out how we want to paint these up. Little tool we made with a little sandpaper on one end. Turns out it works pretty good for this too. Anyway, I got to get the hand sanding part of this done. Maybe even get some primer on this today. I don't know. We'll find out in about, I guess we're going to find out real soon. Little details like this, you know, they're time consuming to do, but boy, in the final product of a model. I trimmed some of this off just with a scissor, just get a rough trim on it. But it still has the little carbon reinforcement in the back. I kind of like the way these work. Now the next step is, of course, get some sticky back paper bundled over and get all inside here and get this roughed up. Now it's usually pretty easy to get rid of all these little flaws, little machinist ruler, some sticky back paper. Just a little time consuming. But I want a good scuff on everything. I don't know if you can see the scuff before I try to put the primer on here. After thoroughly sanding these out, what I did, I just tack glued them onto a piece of scrap balsa for painting. And I'm going to again try to get the painting done before the rain gets here. But that looks like a plane with 4 engines. Anyway, this is a very convenient way of holding them. And obviously before we glue them, we need to rough up the back and rough up the part where it's going. Now even after a coat of black, what I want to do is just fog on some silver along the edges so it has a little three-dimensional look, and then put on one coat of clear. Now with the silver tips, I don't know if that's going to look real good in the final product, but gives it a little three-dimensional look.
Rose, Rose, I love you with an aching heart.
Trying to create that little three-dimensional look. As soon as this dries, I'll put a couple of coats of clear over it. Just those little silver tips. I don't know. I think they just kind of highlight it. Make it look more like a steel exhaust pipe. Now after a coat or two of clear, it's really starting to have that three-dimensional look that I want. Anyway, you got to look at it from a lot of different angles. As the silver hits the sun, I think it has the look of a piece of steel. Okay, another day ends and we're going to pick this up tomorrow. We have one more stripe left to go and we'll really start to see what it looks like. Now in today's mail, this is great, and I'm going to start carrying this as a regular product. Reno Ready Stuntmaster popcorn, laced with pampa oil, packed by Shady himself. This, by the way, is from Ken Clapson. How to enjoy best pop minutes before a Reno Air race. Limit intake to maximum one bag per, well, not race, but for 5 minutes, and one bag per day. Forget it. Just forget it. Anyway, this is great. From Ken Clapson. He also sent in something I'm sure John Brodak's going to be interested in. What he did, he's bringing all this Brodak dope in up in Canada now, and he set up his own mixing machine. And all he has to do is program in, he wants it to be this color or that color. Look at this. Not really, this is really a fertilizer machine, but he had me going. Anyway, Ken, hey, you're okay. I don't care what John Brodak says about you. That wonderful time of wall painting. We're getting down to the last, look at this, of the last one coming up on here now. It always gets to be a lot of fun right at the very end. One more color to put on, well, one maybe the striping. But as it starts to shape up, see how those little guys that we did in the corner worked out. And as I've been going along, I've been knocking down all the edges. Now, if you get any stains that are left on, so if we haven't had many, usually they'll come out on a white. The tin foil will leave a little gray spot. Just take a little Gorham's and Gorham's will take it right off. You notice right by the jar, I always keep the Gorham's. Right by the jar. Right by the port. Now, I wanted to lay this out just before I do the, obviously the next step is I got to put the clear around the edges. I want to mix the next color, which is going to be gold, by the way. I have some of the prototype gold. Gold hasn't been released by Brodak yet, but I have some from George Anderson. It's really just a test sample of what will be available, so there's nothing high-tech happening there. But I wanted to look at this trim job just to see if I really liked it from this point, or for instance, at this point in time I could make that the middle stripe a different color, or I could add a stripe, which I may do, by the way. I may put a white stripe around between the red and the blue. That's something I've thought of doing. I have a lot of options here as far as changing it or adding to it, making it more complex. Always a lot of things you can do at the last minute, but it's always good to stand back and take a look at it before you go on to the next step. Exhaust manifolds are drying up from yesterday. Really look like they're going to be perfect. Anyway, I'm kind of happy with the way that worked out. I think this is, well, what I had in mind, very close to it. This is a test sample here, and I don't know if this has got the right amount of pigment in it yet until I do a little test. I want to try brushing on some of these stripes again. It'll need at least 2 coats, and I want to see what it's going to look like when it dries. Anything under a 1/4 inch I like to, if possible, do this. Now what it looks like I'm going to do is I'm going to change, first I'm going to have to paint the white part of the trim on the wing. See, I was getting ahead of myself before and I forgot I had to paint the white. And then I'll have to back mask the gold, so I won't be able to get all the gold done today, but it'll give me a day to test this and see if I like this particular amount of pigment that's in the paint. Because what happens as you add more and more gold pigment, it gets brighter, of course, but you lose adhesion. So I don't want to get too cute here. This looks plenty bright, by the way. And this fellow George Anderson, he showed me when I was over at Brodak, there's about 60 different variations of doing gold that they can make. So we're hoping we're going to get the brightest, best coverage. This might cover in 1 coat. Now I really like the way the gold covered. In fact, I think the way they ship the sample, that's the way they should make the paint when it's in production. It brushed on a beautiful stripe, real nice. Now, the fact that I have 2 fuselages to do, I can always do a little, see, I can try that. If I don't like the way that looks, then I can just go right to the next step on this one. But one of the things I wanted to do, and this is the kind of stuff I always say, I always change my mind at the last minute. I wanted to make this piece here gold and then outline it with white. That's why I had left the tape on. But in looking at this and the way, because the lettering is going to take up a big part of this wing and I don't have the pattern made for it yet, what I decided to do after looking at the way the gold covered, I want to leave the gold stripes and make that piece in there white. So it's a little change of plan. But again, we're trying to play off Strega and trying to make this have some family resemblance to our Air Force of Reno Air Raid. The more I look at it, the more I think that would be a little improvement over what I originally did. But see, that's the whole point of doing it this way, is you get to make a little change without having to sandpaper off the paint off the plane. What's nice about not having to deal with making a scale model, because we can pretty much improvise, add a little trim where we think it's necessary. We're not committed to, and we're not going to get scored on for sure, how scale a paint job is. We just want to make it attractive. Now I like this, Paul Winter's his logo, for which he's going to pay me a commission, of course. Anyway, I like he did the nice letterhead like that. Paul, you could send me some. Send me some fancy paperwork too for no charge at all. Being I graduated you from my driving school. There's some pictures here, and these are good. These are some good ones. Now the caption is, in England, they haven't invented tractors yet. And what they did is they contract Paul Winter to give everybody flying lessons, and he plows up the field. Notice that this is oh man, Paul, your driving school was not that good, and your flying school was even worse. Let me run through these quick. There's only 3 pictures of this crash. And he said there was not much damage, it was repairable. Yada, yada, yada. But when Paul teaches somebody to fly, there's no guarantee. Just like that Reno driving school thing. I love that, by the way. A nice set of pictures, and by the way, we'll use these in our crash repair column. Anyway, here's some pictures of Paul Winter's new Voodoo, and I know, for instance, Ken Clapson, looking at this carbon fiber canopy. This is going to be Paul Winter's Voodoo. And he's got the top block going on the way he showed on a previous video. This is a cute idea, bolting the plane together with some sticks. That's a good idea. He's got the detachable tail, a la Voodoo, and Voodoo had a standard Mustang rudder. By the way, Paul, you got to move that a little bit forward if you want it to be scale. He's got the detachable scoop, that the scoop goes on, and then the wing goes in, and then the scoop goes on. According to his note anyway. Some nice construction pictures anyway. I just think Voodoo is going to be a very, very popular. And I hope, Paul, I hope you put that drop door back there, that little drop door. We're going to be putting that. Well, we already got it on. What am I talking about? But it's a good place to have some hot air exit from either the engine or the tune pipe. Now, Paul must be building away. You got to keep in mind, his driving school, they only have one customer a year at his driving school. Usually he's the customer. So it's his way of avoiding having a real job, I think. But anyway, he's building day and night. And I've been to his house in England. He's got quite a nice shop. And it looks like Voodoo here is coming along. He's got the aeropoxy going on there. He says the aeropoxy's sanding out like butter. This is nice. And he says the scoop goes on after the wing is in place, which is a cool idea. Now see, here's another thing, Paul. Al Rabe had something like this. You could look at Al Rabe's plans. And by the way, on one of those Ken Clapson videos is the model that Al Rabe used. Let me see what the number is. I have the number sitting here. Sugar Easy 2 is on the 88 video that Ken Clapson just sent us. Here's another picture of the scoop. Now all of these are nice. These are the Voodoo, but here's the finished model. Of course, we've had this on tape before. He's doing some prop testing now. We're going to see him at Brodax. And obviously they're going to the World Championships or whatever they're going over in Europe. Have a great time over there seeing all the guys. And here's Roy Cherry's model and Paul's model. Paul, we appreciate the pictures. We'll send some of these on to Stunt News. We'll send them all on. And thanks a lot. Keep us appraised of that Voodoo and order up a gallon of that Royal Purple. Next step is going to be to back mask, as we've all done before, and put clear along the edges. And I think in the final analysis, having these gold outlines, I'm going to see if I like that before I make the big commitment here. But this is why I always laugh about how I change things at the last minute, because you never know how something's going to look in real life until you lay it out. Always good to do it and keep looking at it, keep looking. And if you're not happy, just change it. The thing I was not happy about was that it's too dark relative to the fuselage. When you look at the fuselage, there's a lot of white. It's very bright. This was kind of drab, so I wanted to brighten it up by putting some white on it. Well, we're going to find out if I like it as soon as I paint the white. Looks like we have an aluminum table here. Anyway, we're ready to paint the white stripes, and it looks like the sun is finally out after a whole night of rain. Anyway, we have some sun. Now what I always try to do whenever I'm painting white is, rather than trying to get one big thick heavy wet coat on, let it dry in between for, even though you see it looks like it's covered, it's always a little bit better on thin areas like this to let it dry a little bit. Give this a half hour or so to dry, then put on a second coat. When you try to put it all on at once, it seems to build up on the tape edges, and you get those thick, ratty edges. It turned out to be an Anaheim type day. Anyway, another trick, and I'm going to try to show this on camera. I always try to get it so the sun reflects up and I can see the wetness. Well, let's see, I don't know if I can show this properly. See now, as that light reflects on that wet paint, you can see a dry spot if there is one. Always good to have that right there where you can see the sun candle on it. That's what I like to see when I'm doing the paint work. Because it's so sunny out here, I'll put another coat of clear on those exhaust manifolds too. That'll dry right up today. Leave it right out in the sun. But if you can see that candling, that's what helps you get on a nice wet coat in one shot. Oh, it's gotten so hot out here in the last half an hour. This is really amazing, and I know this paint will dry right up. Again, that candling trick is the only way that I know of to ensure you get a nice even amount. Once you can get that sun to reflect off the paint, and again, I'm not trying to get a whole wet coat on here, just one coat. Especially in this temperature, 20 minutes, this will be dry. I can put on another coat, much better, no chance of getting a run. And one thing about the Brodak White, even though it looks like it covers on one coat, I really do like to have that second coat on there. And you can see that it looks pretty white. I think that's going to be real nice. And the whole objective of changing this from gold, this was originally going to be gold, is I wanted to make it a little bit more jump out. Now, brighter or whatever you call it, but one of the things I'm going to try now is tomorrow I'll put, once this all dries, I'll put the gold striping around the edge, see if I need to add any striping, see what I need to do. Maybe I need to add more accent stripe to that. But again, I like the way that looked, and I think I'm going to like the way this looks when I'm done with it. Look what just came into today's mail. The first of the t-shirts for the Miss Ashley project. We're going to get other ones. We're replacing this picture. The picture is a little on the dark side. Bet anybody would like one of these. I know Paul Winter's going to order a dozen. Anyway, we'll make you a special offer you can't refuse. These are really, really nice. I really am happy the way these came out. Anyway, the only thing I wanted to do, this picture is kind of dark. I wanted to replace it with a lighter picture, but anybody that would like one of these shirts, give me a holler. Give me a screen. Give me something. Give me your firstborn. Anyway, these really look nice. And special thanks to Sarah for laying them out. Now, it looks like the gold striping is really nice and bright when it dries, so I have a feeling this is going to be a real nice color when it actually goes into the cans. The next step, I'll pull off the rest of the tin foil, but the fuselages, I like the way the stripe looks on the fuselages, the final look, and I like the fact that the gold is really bright. It's really a bright, bright gold. Now, one of the things I always try to do is, as I'm going along, just keep looking at it, constantly, I guess like an artist with a palette, add a little green, add a little blue or whatever. But one of the things in the very original, my original mind's eye, I was thinking possibly of making these stripes white. Well, now that we have gold, and I like how that gold looks, I'm going to turn these stripes into gold as the next step. And then I want to look at it again and see if I've gone overboard. And there's a magic rule that I have. If in doubt, and you don't know whether to add one stripe or leave one stripe out, leave one stripe out. One too many is always worse than one not enough. Again, by looking at the parts and just evaluating, the thing that's come out of this is I really like the gold striping. The gold striping, really, I didn't think it was going to be that brilliant, but that really is a nice color. Thing is to get all the foil off of the wing and then lay all the parts on the floor and see if we're going to be happy with them. Right about this time every year, I'm on my third roll of tin foil, my fourth roll of masking tape, and you kind of get bored. Oh, I don't know, I get bored. But anyway, going back and forth with these trim jobs and trying to come up with something original, unique, trying to avoid that it just looks like every other plane in appearance roll. It's difficult. Anyway, we've evolved this paint job a little bit. I hope you can see how we've evolved it little by little by little by little. And we started out with something in our mind's eye that isn't exactly what we have now, but it's similar anyway. Now, if anybody can guess how many rolls of masking tape, and oh man, they love me down at the Body Shop Supply House, believe me. They love me. But this is just, if you see this once, then you're not intimidated by it. I think just seeing it once is just enough. And thanks a lot to Walt Prey for coming up with this idea with the tin foil, which he shared with us years ago. Certainly a usable, we've used it for years. It's a good idea. Whoop. Now we're coming down the end here. I'm going to mask off the gold. Well, I'll tell you, you really do get sick of looking at masking tape and tinfoil. But the alternative, when we used to use newspaper and we used to use all kind of magazines and stuff, it was never even close to being as good. The tinfoil really is the trick. Card the edges, back mask this. We're ready to do the gold striping and then get another artist's look at, do we need to add something? Do we need to take something away? You know, there's nothing that, for instance, if you didn't like the black, you could back mask it and make it some other color too. Now, I know you're going to have a good laugh on this. As I'm finishing up the taping, and I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, a lot of things go through my mind, because I always love to change my mind at the last minute. And I've basically got everything but the stab taped off. So I've been looking around, well, I've been playing some of the videos with the appearance judging. I've been looking around at the different choices I have here. Now, one of them was, my 85 plane had double gold stripes, and I didn't like the way up here. I didn't like the way the two stripes, when they come together, it just got too bulky looking. So what I've been doing is going back and forth in my mind like an old woman who can't decide whether to put the laundry in or not. I did like, and again, I've been going back and forth, is the orange. Now see, you don't really even notice that it's orange and not red until you look at it real quick. So what I decided to do, and the orange against the black sets it off nice, is rather than doing two gold stripes, I'll do one orange up by the black and one gold in by the other color, just as another way of, well, giving it more of a family resemblance to Strega, which is what I originally wanted. Even just a little thing like one choice of color being wrong or right can make or break the whole paint job. And I think that orange, well, Brodak makes a real nice bright orange, but anytime you can put a brighter color on there, the brighter, I think the brighter it is, the better every time, with no exceptions at all. So it came to pass that Wendy could not decide right to the last minute. He's carried on a fine tradition. So we'll get a look at, now that we're ready to paint, we'll get a little look at whether this is going to work out. And again, if we don't like it, before I pull up the tape, I can just change it. Well, I hope I'm going to be happy with this before I change my mind again. I know you're thinking Wendy's an old washwoman, but I'm trying to accomplish a lot with this as far as making the colors bright, making it a little bit different than Strega. Now, I just received these in the mail, and I guess you know what these are. These are the color chips for the new Brodak Candy Apple Dopes. John's going to go through. Look at that red. Ooh, like that. Various selections of green. I know the purple's going to be, that's a nice one there. But anyway, John will be picking out some colors here. Oh, man. Blue. Voodoo blue. I don't know if these come out on the video. the color that they are. But this is George Anderson's little baby pet project. We're going to be mailing these off to John today to review. Pick a few. It's not going to be long before we have Brodak Candy Apple Dope. I can't wait. Today is the last, let's hope the last, of the stripes coming off. And I want to dress off all the edges. I have a few other little paint items to work on, and it looks like we have some decent weather for spraying. What I like about this part of the job, now I can constantly evaluate it and see how I like it, and if the tape edges are, these look like extremely nice tape edges. And I like the color combinations. I really like the gold. The gold is really, I didn't think I'd like it that much. I really do like the gold. Right about this time in every paint job, and believe me when I tell you, I know everybody out there is probably thinking, I don't have to do that. That's a waste of a half an hour or whatever. Well, let me tell you what I have found in my own, and basically because I'm lazy. And what would happen is, as I'm working toward the end of now, when I know there'll be little or no more tape on a plane, there's little spots, little smudges, little places where the paint isn't right, and I want to touch up edges that maybe aren't exactly perfect. And what happens if you have cans of paint, at least I find, when you have cans of paint, nobody will see that, nobody will see that, and you just let things go. Now, I like to do this on an ongoing basis. And what I find out is if I have a little touch-up kit, I call it a touch-up kit, I make one for every plane, and then what I do when I'm all done with the plane, I put all the lids on these jars, and this goes to the Nats with me as my touch-up kit. So in case some bozo puts his finger through the wing or whatever, or supposing I damage it. Anyway, if you get 6 little jelly jars, in this case these are these little jars that the fisheye killer comes in, any jars, it really doesn't matter. And what I do, a couple tips. You never fill up the jars. See, the jars only have just enough paint in there that the brush can stay in there constantly. You never take the brush out. And just let that sit at night. You can take the brushes out or do that. But if you fill the jars up, then every time you go to brush something, what happens is you got to clean the brush. Well, this way you never have to clean the brush. You can just leave the brushes in there for the next, I guess, week or so while we'll be doing the finalization of this paint work. This can basically stay just the way it is. Or, again, you could put the lids on if you want to be fanatical. Now, I'll get a little jar, I don't have it out here yet, of thinner just to clean the brush or to clean my, you can see my hands are good and dirty from fooling around already today. But I have found the best single thing to have is a little touch-up kit from about this point in the model on, and if you go back to the Spitfire videos or some of the other ones, you'll notice, yeah, he's got a kit. And boy, by the time you get to the Nats, there aren't a lot of spots, oh, he missed it, because you can touch them up in an ongoing basis. As you go along, you want to touch them up. Just one example of a little spot. When I pulled up the tape, the edge is not perfect. The clear out apparently didn't get in there, or whatever the situation is. Now what I can do is on an ongoing basis. And I mean, if you don't do it on an ongoing basis, what I find is you get to the end and you say, nobody will see that. Well, I can just run this and the clear will melt it in. You'll never even see it. Now that little spot, once the clear is on, and now there's probably edges. Usually right along here is where there'll be a little spot. I can see a spot maybe right there, maybe right here. Here's another little spot while I have the material. See, if you have the material sitting in jars and ready to go, you tend to do this. If you have to open a can, wash a brush, you tend not to do it. At least I do. Now you might be a lot less lazy than I am. You may be more lazy than I am, so. But it's such a good tip. One I've found, here's another spot here. See, this is what I do. Every time I pull a tape off of one part, I'll look around and be very fussy about it. And even though you'll see that right now, once the clear melts that, you won't see it. Now see, here's a little spot. These are little, I just call them little the little warts of life here. And we want to bury all that in clear anyway. But it's all these little touch-up spots that when you're done and you pop that plane down and somebody looks at it, they go, oh, that's no mistakes. Because people tend to spot a mistake. You put a plane down, and if there's one flaw in the whole plane, they'll go right to it and pick it right out. I found that to be that's probably the best tip you'll get off the video, is having a little touch-up kit. Now, even though most of the lines, well, most of them, we hope all of them, have that nice clean edge, you always get one where you've smudged it, and as I pull this off, having that touch-up kit, believe me, the first time I made a touch-up kit, I said, oh boy, I was really, really happy with just being able to turn around right now. And I have all those jars sitting there with a brush in them. So as soon as I see a little spot that's not perfect, or that I've made an error in, or that's been a problem, I can take care of it. When you don't have that, and boy, I guess I'm lazier than most people is what it boils down to. Whenever I've had that, the choice of just saying, nobody will see that. Well, you spend all this time making these lines real nice, and inking a plane and everything. I think you're always better if you have, well, for all purposes, no errors at all. The things that's nice about a touch-up kit is, and maybe some people don't even like to do this, but I do. I like to get the paint to go right around the edges and down into the part, maybe a 1/4 of an inch or so. And even though this is a little detail, to me, an aeroplane is 1,000 little details, and if you take care of them one by one, you'll probably have a pretty nice plane. Anyway, real excited about these candy apple colors. I have my little test samples, and we're going to try to use them on the cockpit of the plane, just as a way of testing it. We have some new spray equipment that we're going to be testing in the next week. Some kind of high-end stuff. Being real looking forward to seeing that. That I think's already in the mail. And in the meantime, we're trying, as we go along, clean up all the little mistakes, all the little errors. If you do them on an ongoing basis, it doesn't seem to be overwhelming at the end. And usually at the end, now see, I need to do the same thing to the box itself. The same thing, and I won't belabor that, just continue the stripes down a little bit. So when that box is locked in, that stripe seems to go around and come out the other end. Just one little detail that I think just makes the plane a little more finished. And obviously I'll do that on the cowling, the bottom blocks, everywhere there's a take apart seam and there's an edge that I can work off, I'll bring the trim around the edge. By having these parts in place, a lot of times I try to do these without having these in place and just interpolate over it. This way it works a lot better. I can get an exact location of where these stripes are and just continue that down into the box or into the gear cover. Now, especially where the gear wire enters, I wanted to have those stripes go all the way down. Every time you use that touch-up kit, you'll find it more and more handy. Again, I like to lay it out, get a little overview of how this is shaping up before I go any further. Now, one of the things, there's two things I'll try to accomplish for the rest of the day. I need to put the silver base coat on the canopy, and as long as I'm going to have silver in the gun, in the one gun, as long as I'm going to do a silver, I want to do the outlines of what I'll call my two emblems. Now, typically on Strega I had put checkerboards, but I want to come up with something a little more creative than that. I've thought about a lot of choices using those Cortland's Aerospace emblems. I kind of got away from that, and I just been Well, every day I change my mind. Let's face it, I'm like an old lady. I don't know when that actually started, but I've kind of liked having those on a lot of the planes that I've flown. I like the look of it. And I've had a lot of variations of these shields and things that look like parking tickets or whatever. But I've always liked that look. It brings a lot of attention in where the fuselage meets the body. And of course on some of the Cardinals we use the head of the Cardinal, which, I don't know, I kind of like the way that looked, and that little emblem, and we could always use that as a little, to counterbalance the bird's head. What I've liked is always having a lot of attention in where the body meets the wing. In that area, having a lot of either stripes or checkerboards. And looking at other people, it seems like Ted's kind of got the same idea here, just the same idea of getting a lot of striping or attention or stars or whatever in by the root of the wing. Again, this guy was one of the first, I think, to have the shields. Walker's variation is to have stars, and that kind of brings your eye in by the cockpit, by the wing root. Another good choice. John Sunderland has this kind of a stripe in there. Basically, everybody's trying to do the same thing. And of course, the best one of all is invasion stripes, but not appropriate for this model. Well, we're going to come up with something here before the end of the day. Let me get out the artist sketch pad. This was a difficult lettering job, and what I did, at the time I had Mike Haravich make me a Xerox copy of the plane flying around a pylon, and I kind of enlarged it until I got to this level, this size. And what John Pothier and Elliot have both done is John's been doing some computer graphic stuff to lay out patterns for me, and Elliot's been putting a little artwork final touch on them. Between both of them, we should have something really special when it comes time to do the lettering. See, this is a very thin Bob Hunt's plane, very effective, having that attention to detail where your eye is drawn right into that area of the plane. Again, just some of the other choices. One of the planes I've always really liked, this is Robbie Hunt's version of Europa. I've always liked that. I don't know the classic word for it, the flares or the stripes or flames or whatever it is. But that's a really classic look. Billy Werwidge has used that, Walt Prey. But it's that same thing of getting a lot of attention in by the body, where the body joins the wing. Robbie Hunt's planes here that had a lot of attention in by the right. Actually, that blue stripe there does a lot for it too. It brings your eye right into the center of the airplane. And Ken Tyser's variation of Strega trim with all the stripes the same, but your eye still goes right to that middle of the plane. Another good example of where the trim fades back and flares or stripes. Classic look. Walt Prey's beautiful Gilmore. And my 85 plane, relentless with a lot of the striping in by the root, and then it all fading out. But it's just something to think about when you lay out your next paint job. Now even the old sweeper, going even as far back as that. And I basically stole this from Bob Gialdini's Olympic, but the Olympic rings, because at that time I just didn't have anything in my mind that I liked more, and this was one of my favorite paint jobs, the Olympic. And that little emblem, that little Olympic rings, it seems to have fit into this paint job real well. And one of the things I thought about was this Cortland's Aerospace. I was going to try to do a variation of this. John Pothier made me all different sizes. And I said, oh, geez, I don't know. I got to have something just a little different than that. Give you some food for thought. Let's get sketching. Before I work on that shield, because I'm going to have silver in the gun, I want to back mask where the canopy, that'll be the base of the canopy, and get that sprayed, get that outside to dry. While that's drying, and I can do the artwork on what's going to be our equivalent of the shields. Always trying to figure out when I can get something to dry while something else is being worked on. I think I get a little bit ahead that way because I do have very limited time to work on this stuff. Now every time I look at these two fuselages, the one carbon and the one wood, I'm trying to keep them as much the same as possible, so I'm going to try to exactly copy the line right off of the outline of one and transpose it right onto the other one when I do the back masking. I want to simulate that silver, the opening bar where it opens right in front of the pilot, where the cockpit actually opens. Let's see if we have it on this picture. I want to simulate that when I do the silver and leave that silver. That bar obviously is silver. Real handy here is this 1/16 tape, and while I'm masking this off, I'm going to mask that bar off so that while I'm spraying this silver, I can get this silver bar painted on it. Now see, I got the 16th tape so I could get that little ridge there where the canopy actually mounts into the airplane. Try to simulate that. I wanted to lay that line out in 16th tape. The 8th it just didn't look scale enough or realistic enough. So again, I'll border it with 1/8 inch tape. Now there's one trick that you'll find if you're going to paint a canopy that works real well, or you're going to paint a stripe like this, is you need to roughen that little area up that you want to paint. You really just don't want to lay paint on that. There's a good chance it's not going to get a real good bond. So what I want to do, hold up some sandpaper and get some scratches on it. Now Dan Vanjock just had a problem with his Mustang. Is he painted the clear on a canopy without scratching the canopy, and the paint basically came off like saran wrap. So obviously we'd like that not to happen. But a little scratching, this is 320 I think, just get it a little scuffed up. Now this little thin stripe I can brush, but the big one I want to spray. And then once that silver dries, again while it's drying, I can be working on my artwork.